best job in the world as a principal of a school, where you have that connection. Kids are, you pretty much got the stage, and you know about the kids, you learn about what they like, about what they're doing, where they're going. I miss those pieces, but I really do like the being able to see and make a difference with staff now. So my kids are now the teachers that are energized and thrilled about what they're learning when we bring in presenters, or we take a look at their reading scores and the Acadians, and now what do we do and where are the resources for that? So that part is really, but it is a different role, certainly. And when I left, I always said to myself, I'm never going to forget what it was like to be a principal. I'm never going to make those unrealistic demands where a principal looks at you and says, like, by 2 o'clock this afternoon, you get that it's just thrilling that I actually saw your email right now, but I'm about to get to a class. Like, do you know what I mean? So I said, I'll never be that person who forgets what it's like to be in a building. And I think I've been here since 2011. That's when I started. And everyone says, like, why didn't you? I like what I do, and I hope that I haven't forgotten what it's like to be in a school. But I can tell you, just in that, whenever it is, 13 years now, it's different. Like, it's different. That we have there, the demands from the kids are different. The expectations, from the parents are extremely different in terms of what they know. And I think I haven't forgotten, but I really don't know, right? Like, I really don't know what it's like now to live in that, because I never did it. I know I never did it. The student services and the complexities just there. I know I've not lived it. So I remember from back there, and even then it was simpler. It was simpler times.
Well, my personal goal is to reconnect to the relevance that I felt in my role as an educator when I was a principal of a school, because I feel like I could sit in the district office and not participate in the types of conversations that I found extremely meaningful being an educator when I was a school principal. And that is talking with teachers about the most important ongoing sources of data and learning evidence which happen at the classroom. So my biggest challenge in moving into this role is a challenge of relevancy. Like, what is the role, what is the relevance of the assistant superintendent to the core purpose of the school district? Because you can lose track of really quickly who you are and why you started doing this. Well, it's interesting because I'm starting to be convinced and compelled more and more that the climate of the school district is what you notice, but the culture is what you can affect. I've been going through Will Richardson's slides over and over from the summer session, and he said something to the effect that, if your organization doesn't have an understanding and an agreement about its current reality, then any attempt to provide a vision of what the future ought to look like will be confused at best, because the current reality has to be accepted and agreed upon. And so I think when you come from somewhere else, regardless of whether the narrative that's being carried by somebody like me is good, justifiable, should continue or not, is really not the point. I think I lead a group of teachers here called Aspiring Leaders, and we work on it's our leadership succession program. But one of the things, the very first session is about culture, and we're in person for the whole day. And we spend a lot of time talking about ways you can assess the culture of a building that you go into as a new principal. But I think it's equally important to assess the culture when you come in from outside. And I think it's really hard for people like us to just sit back and do an assessment of the context in which I find myself as a leader without actually putting our hands on the buttons. But I think that's really required. You have to ask, how are decisions made? What causes people to feel valued? How do people like to receive feedback? How do we talk to each other? What structures are set up? How do systems interact with each other? Are they aligned for common purposes? Right? Where does the power rest? In schools, where does the power rest? So I really think that an assessment of the culture will help you understand the climate that you're feeling. But I think people often go in and say, oh, the climate feels this way, got to change the climate. But I don't think you can change the climate in that context until you actually assess the culture and then create a shared understanding of what the current reality is and what it could be, under your leadership.
I think, is building relationships. Without understanding the people that you are working with, it's hard to lead them. Leading from the heart is a big one. Appreciate, respect, and encourage and listen, empower others, and just showing interest and listening to them and connecting with them. Then you build a really strong relationship. Like, I feel everyone I work with, I feel connected with them, and I feel like I can call them. I feel like they're my friends. So being a leader is just, yeah, being kind and building those strong relationships, because then you can foster collaboration and work together and reach our goals as a school and as a community.
Why do we have so many sick days? Why do we have so many people in temporary assignments because they can't handle a full day's work? Why are we having difficulty with recruiting in the profession? Like, why are those things real right now for us? So that's a big question for me in terms of, because again, it's our littles without people, right? It's our littles without happy, healthy people that want to do, everything they can to make sure our kids are successful. So if anything, I would say that what might be getting in our way is a lack of a collective, a lack of a community approach. Sometimes we're too busy at odds with one another, whether it's management and union or parents, and like I am more unified in terms of, again, why are we doing the work that we're doing? Who is at the center and who is driving all of this? And if our decisions aren't based solely on that, it becomes problematic. That's what gets in the way when people lose focus. They forget why we're here.
In this job, I find things take time. Our superintendent said this quote once. She said, "You have to go slow to go fast." And coming from a busy school, I'm used to things happening so quickly, but I find that childcare and the politics and the unions, that's slow. Takes time, and you do have to follow up and have follow-up meetings, and make sure you include the right people in the meetings. And it's very important to include the people, like the principals and vice principals and teachers, because you're going into their school and their spaces. So making sure that you communicate and you're open, and everyone's aware of the goals and what we want to happen in our district. I've been lucky because our region has we have the Elk Valley, and then we have Cranbrook and Jaffrey. So we have Elkford, Sparwood, Fernie, Jaffrey, Cranbrook, and the Elk Valley side. So Fernie, Jaffrey, Sparwood, and Elkford. I spend a lot of time there teaching, so I have great connections with the communities and the staff there. Now it's just Cranbrook is sort of new because we were different districts 25 years ago. So getting to know all the Cranbrook teachers, that's sort of the new challenge for me.